Hi everyone, in this video we're gonna create this awesome Nike shoes card in React with a 3D parallax animation, all in React using the help of frame of motion. So this is we're gonna create this awesome card, and whenever you go and drag over it, you're gonna see this awesome parallax 3D animation goes into it. Even the shoes is moving and everything just moves and tilts with awesome spring animations. Clearly see whenever you take it up, it goes up. Take it bottom, goes bottom with awesome rotation and parallax going on with a 3D. And you can have this in your website, wherever you can just like customize it. However, you're going to find the source code down in the description below, and you can find it in my GitHub. Please go ahead and follow me there if you really like this kind of like design, and hope you guys enjoyed it. So yeah, without further ado, just showing you exactly what we're going to be using here is actually frame of motion, as I said before. So this is the official website. The second one, where I inspired the design, I got it from Gerber.com, and this is where I got it from this guy, Sir Wang. Sorry if I'm like misspelling your name, but yeah, this is where you get it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video tutorial, and without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So let's just go ahead and get started. And as in here, I already set up the projects, I got everything set up, I opened VS Code and created React application using the Create React App CLI. So for those of you who are just like absolute beginners and that doesn't exactly know how to set up a React project real quickly using React App CLI, so just pop up a terminal. If you're Windows or Mac, you got a terminal or a CMD, then all you need to do, make sure you have npm and node installed. So you got npx, then you do npx react or create react app, then you give it a name, you give your project a name, your folder name, so you can do like react card or something, or react animation. Click enter, and everything is going to be going into the right way. It's going to install dependencies for you, it's going to start a project, it's going to do everything, all the setup you need. So later on you can open it with your like favorite code editor. Mine in here is actually VS Code, and you can just go ahead and get started. So we got everything in here actually we need, and the React projects in here. I added a couple of things in here, like the images you're going to be using, the, you know, as you've seen the design before on the intro of the video, you probably know what I'm talking about. So you got the images in here just like handmade and ready to go, so we can put them into our design. Now before moving any step further, we need to go ahead and install dependencies before just like diving into it, because there are two crucial dependencies, and they are like very important because they just gonna like allows us to, you know, this is the core of everything I'm gonna do throughout this video. One is style components. If you know me, if you like watch my video tutorials, you know me that I'm a big lover of style components. I never do a video without style components. So it's like my big buddy, and I have to have it in here. It just basically allows you to use CSS in JavaScript. The second one, which is the most important one, is frame of motion. So frame of motion also provides you with an easy API that allows you to animate React components with ease without any issues, and it can provide you with spring animation, with regular CSS animation like linear animation, transitions, and so many stuff that you can use. Like you can use mouse events like dragging or hovering and stuff like that, and you can just hook them up with animation. The API, the examples, the documentation, all of them makes a lot of sense, and the learning curve of frame of motion is definitely really good. So yeah, I've got like a video just like explaining the differences between frame of motion and other really well famous kind of like animation libraries. You can find them in the description below, and you can just like test them yourself. So yeah. Yeah, let's go ahead and just get it started here. I'm gonna just do yarn add, and first things first, we're gonna install the set components. The second one is frame of motion. So simple as that, click enter, and everything is going to be installed. I already did that, already did the math for you guys. So I installed everything, and I am actually ready to go. So I got the projects in here, we got the simple React application, we got app container in here being put on style components, we got like awesomeness going on. Okay, so here we got side by side, and the reason I'm even having in here this by side of side instead of like my other tutorials, just having it on a completely different page and just going through it. It's just basically because right now we got like a small card, so it fits on this side by side kind of like, you know, container of this small window, so we can have it, and it's much better to look in things in real time while watching the video guys for you guys. So yeah, hope you guys kind of enjoy this kind of like content and have it this way. Now, without just like rubbishly talking about stuff, let's go ahead and dive into it. And what I want here is actually to start with the components. Here's in here, as I said before, I already did like some images, like the Air Jordan or the shoes we're going to be like working with, and I'm just going to use, and everything here like the Nike logo and so on and so forth. So this is actually for the images. For a lot other components, we've got a marginer. I most use this kind of like marginer components in a lot. It's basically just to do some custom margin. So it's components, you render it, you give it like 2 AM or like 10 pixels of margin. It just does it for you, either horizontally or vertically. So that's basically what it is in that. And yeah, so let's go inside of the components and let's start putting together the stuff that we're going to be needing. So I'm going to be using like I'm going to start creating something called like a Nike component or a Nike card. So you're going to do like a Nike card. I'm going to do index.jsx and yeah, sorry for my keyboard, it's going nuts. So as we said, GSX. So we're going to start stuff really quickly in here, and this is actually going to be the main component, like the parent components we're going to start working with. So first things first, we get with the components, we're going to just like import React from React as always. I'm going to export the components real quick, so I'm going to just export Nike card. It's going to have some props which we will probably not going to be needing, and yeah, so that's basically what we need for a start. Now, let's go ahead and start putting our container. And the first container we want is actually the Nike container card container, which is, you know, the pairs container where all the magic is going to happen. So this is actually where we're going to have it. And if you're like going to notice in this video tutorial, I'm just going to go through a little bit quickly throughout the CSS and everything, because it's not like about explaining the CSS. It's about like putting the animation together and having this cool style with React, and knowing how to join the parts together, how to put them together with frame of motion, sound components, and all the kind of stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not going to like focus too much on the CSS and, you know, the values, because it's quite easy to follow along with that. So let's import styled component here, and this is going to do the magic for us real quickly. So I'm going to have a width and height. I already got figured out this one. So just like not just wasting a little bit of time. So I could use something like 285 pixels with a height of like 500 pixels. It depends on you, how you want it, your preferences. So I'm just going to have it in like little slim kind of card and a little bit taller, because that's how product card, or like it's more like oriented towards like a device ratio, you know what I mean? So it's a mobile device, it's like an application, it's a shop. So I'm going to have display flex in here. We're going to have flex direction of column, just to render stuff like in a column way. So for border radius, we want quite huge border radius. So just want it to look like this modern kind of card looking. So that's why we can just have it 25 pixels real quick as well. So 25 pixels of the border radius. For the box shadow, this might be like, you know, user, depends on how you look on it, on your perspective. So for me, I'm just gonna use a really simple box shadow. I'm just gonna use 1 pixel, 2 pixels in here, 1 pixel for spreading, and for the RGBA, I'm gonna use kind of like a grayish look. So 31, 31, 31, and I'm gonna use like 0.2 for like transparency. That should make it work. Now, for the background color, we're gonna have like kind of a teal color from black, a little bit grayish, going to the blue. So that's what we're gonna be using in here. I'm just gonna copy the color, and here as clearly in the color palette, clearly just goes a little bit to the blue, and it gives a really awesome way. So most of like the background color is gonna be covered in kind of like black or dark color. So this is gonna give it a really awesome vibe, because the Nike shoes we're going to feature in this particular card is basically like a blend between yellow, it's teal yellow or something, and a black, completely black, and a little bit of white. So that way we can just have the same kind of colors blending in, and we can have the same theme going through, just to make the card look, you know, just like mixed up, and it looks together, you know. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing right here. Now the color, basically, since we got a dark background, I'm going to have it white, and position, I'm going to have it relative in here, just you know, for the sake of that. Now for the cursor, I'm going to have it grab. I'm going to talk about like why have it grab later on as we reach the section of the animation, because grab is going to give you this hand where you can grab the card around, so we can have this grabbing animation going on of the card. Still not right now, but we'll talk about it later on the video. So jumping again here, as you see here, we got a simple card we can go and render as, but let's go and put some other parts before jumping anywhere through. So we're gonna have circle wrapper, and this one is gonna be like basically for the circle where we already had like some circle we want to put inside of the card just to make it look that good, and the circle is gonna be like a yellow colored, and then the shoes comes on top of it. So this is actually the wrapper that's going to hold the circle, and the circle needs to be positioned as absolute, obviously, because we have to like manipulate it however we want. We have to like move it like a little bit to the right of the card and have it overflow hidden and so on and so forth. So this way we can do the trick on the CSS. So I'm going to have position absolute. For this one, I'm going to have a top 0 and basically left 0, because we're going to have a full width and a full height. Okay. And I would rather have it like minimum height, because we wanted to take the full width and the full height of the top container, which we'll create in a second. I'm going to have overflow hidden. This one is kind of important because we want the circle to be hidden inside of this like wrapper. We don't want it to spread out of the card. So overflow hidden should do the trick for us right here. And next one is actually a border top right radius, and this one is actually a trick because in a bit, if we have this circle wrapper to have an overflow hidden, it's gonna overflow as well the border radius of the card, and the card in here won't have this kind of border radius on the top right, because this one is gonna be more the circle is gonna have a position of the top right, kind of like absolute positioned. So this way we can override it. You can see that in a second. Now we can go ahead and create this circle itself. So the circle, the yellowish circle that we was talking about throughout all this time. So we can have it a div again, and so have a position absolute. So I missed the naming position again. So for the width, we can have a 350 pixels for both width and height. I guess that should make it really, really good. For the top, I already got that determined, so we can have, depends. I want it to be going into like the top right, so top minus 4.2 em, and probably I want to write like minus 10 em, because 350 pixels is quite huge compared to our width in here. We got only 285 pixels, so that should we should take it like overflow it or translate it a little bit to the right to have this kind of effect of the circle going out of the card, but not overflowing, because we got overflow to be hidden. Okay, hope that is actually making sense. I want the Z index to be 5. I want it just a little bit above, not everything else, because we're gonna not need other elements to go above the circle indeed. And background color, I want it to be teal, kind of like yellow. So I got this color figured out here, which is a perfect color for that kind of design, which matches the shoes color. And last but not least, we can have a border radius of 50%, and this one is going to make it a circle instead of like a rectangular. So here, this one is going to do the magic for us, and it's going to make it look like a circle. Pretty cool stuff. So we got awesome stuff so far. Let's go ahead and render it here. I'm going to have a card container, then got circle wrapper, then circle. So just saving that, and I forget about adding this into the app.jsx, so it's going to do this. So Nike card. Pretty cool. Amazing. We've got the card already, and the card is looking absolutely amazing already. Just like a standstill static card for now, but later on it's going to be having a lot of cool animation going on through it. Now, basic stuff done. Let's go and jump into a little bit more complicated stuff. So we got the circle wrapper and everything, and I want the card to be like partitioned into two containers, the top container and the bottom container. The top container can have the shoes and the Nike big kind of like, you know, text as you've seen before. And down there we can have details about the shoes, like the shoes name and the price, and the button where they can buy it. And we got some like little Nike logo and so on and so forth. So this is basically how I want it and how I'm gonna do it right here. So I'm gonna create two containers. I'm gonna create the top container. So this one is styled div. So top container definitely is gonna just take a width 100%. It's gonna display a flex and a flex direction of a column, as we all know that. This should be pretty obvious. Now for the flex property, I want it to have like 1.2, so it gets a little bit bigger than the bottom container, because, you know, we want to have like big stuff going on in here. So the bottom container is like smaller compared to the top container. That's exactly what I want it right here. And I want it to have it all this like flex position kind of thingy. So here we want to relative because we got some positioned, absolute positioning going on inside of it. Aligning items should be going into center, and this should do it horizontally for us. So we want everything go to this horizontally in center. And justify contents, I should use flex end because we're gonna have like some text and we wanted to have it like a little bit down here, like at the bottom of the circle. We don't want it to have it on the top, because the shoes is gonna cover a little bit, like almost the whole kind of like top container. So this way we can have it just, you know, going down into the circle. So it's going to create this awesome effect of it. We will see that how it goes. And yeah, so we probably need a little bit more like padding of it, like a 1 em top and bottom and 15 pixels left and right. Okay, so that should make the job. Now the second one is the bottom container. So styled div. And we needed bottom container. So for the bottom container, we're gonna have a flex again. We're gonna have here we got 1.2. So all that's left for us is 0.8. So you know, you have to do the math right here. You got two containers, so they should sum up into 2. You do the math, you get it correctly. So we got padding again. So padding, I might have like 0 from the top, from left, bottom 0, and 1 em from. Okay, I could have just like summoned this into 0, 1 em. That should make it a little bit easier for us to read and understand what exactly going on. So here we can have a top container. Cool. Bottom container. And we can have it bottom. Cool. So we got the bottom container. So you see where the text starts. So this is where the bottom container starts, and the whole top in here is actually a top container, because we got like 1.2 of flex instead of like 0.8 compared to the bottom container. So do the math, you're gonna get it right. Anyway, so we got the Nike here, we got everything we will need. Now let's go ahead, we're gonna be needing actually to add the Nike text, where it comes right here where it says like Nike, and that's basically what it is. It's gonna be like a super big Nike kind of like logo of it. Okay, so let's go ahead and add the text of that. And the reason like for adding a text is just to make it look a little bit better, because we'll have the text on bottom here, and or like on back, then we're gonna have some, the shoes comes on top of it, and it's gonna create this like parallax kind of effect of it. Once we do the animation, it's gonna look super awesome once we just add the animation right into it. So I'm gonna be installed in here. I'm gonna have H1, so I'm gonna be using the biggest as we could. So it's gonna be white color, FFF. We got text transform. So text transform uppercase, because we want everything to go uppercase, right? So margin 0, because H1 has by default some margin. We don't really need it. And the Z index, we have it 10, so we want it to go a little bit like on top of the circle in here as we created it. And the font size, well, you know, it depends on what type of font you use, but yeah, we can have like 76. We will see how it goes in a second. And the font weight, we can have the highest, so 900, regardless of what fonts we are using. So 900 in here should make it look pretty bold. Now, speaking of the fonts, I actually like gone and handpicked a little bit some of fonts that could match this design, because Nike is like, you know, you need to have this like tall and slim font, a thin font. So I gone and just like did some lookout for fonts. I didn't find much, but what I'm using right now, I'm using Nero, if I'm spelling that right. But there's actually others in here like matches this one, so I'm just gonna leave them here on the script, all the CSS file, and you can choose whatever you want. But I'm gonna just say Nero just does a good job, but it has only 400 and 700 for bold and for regular. So yeah, you have to work with that. So if you find another font, let me know. I will definitely just like make the design better with that font. You know, only a font that matches the criteria and just matches the Nike theme or the Nike theme pretty much. Okay, so yeah, that's exactly what I'm pretty much using right now. We can have it like circle wrapper, have it like a Nike text right down there, because we wanted to go inside of the top container. But you know, remember, since what we used, that's like the top container has a flex end, so it goes right into the bottom. Now I can have it like Nike Air. Pretty cool, and it looks amazing already. So yeah, exclusively the text matches because it's quite thin and it's quite tall. So it does a pretty good effects right over there. Pretty awesome stuff. So let's jump into the most important part of the whole card in here, is actually having the shoes just floating around right top here and having all that animation into it. So let's go ahead and just put the shoes together, and the shoes are gonna like have some stuff, like a lot of things. So yeah, I'm gonna try to explain that to you guys, depending on the CSS and stuff like that. So I'm gonna have a shoes wrapper. It's gonna be a div. So this is actually the wrapper where everything goes in. I'm gonna have a full width and a full height of it, because this one is gonna be positioned absolute, right? And we want the child, the actual shoes image is gonna just like go into a flex direction. It's gonna align it to center. This way we won't have any issues with like absolutely positioning it. Then once we come to the animation, it's going to be a huge issue, because animating in here and doing this parallax kind of like 3D animation, we need to like offset the X and the Y value, the rotation of X and rotation of Y, and yada yada yada. So messing around with this one is going to override if we do any like top and left absolute position on the CSS. So better not do it. Just rely on flex positioning, and this is gonna make it super easy to follow, right? So display flex in here, we got, I'm gonna use align items to be center and justify content to be center too. So this way we can have it right into the center without even worrying about it, and how it just goes right into there. So this is a shoes wrapper. Now, when it comes to the shoes, it's actually where we're going to be rendering everything, like the image and stuff like that. So this one is going to be shoes. I'm going to have style.div again. So I'm going to have a width to be auto. Why? Just to keep on and preserve the aspect ratio of the image. Then I'm just going to control the height. So the height is going to say something like 190 pixels, maybe. The z-index is going to be the high z-index, because it should come above everything on the card. So 99, always make sure to use 99. Just don't like overcome this value, because it's going to be complicated for you to debug your code. And user select none, we wouldn't want to like the mouse to be able to select that image, because that would be pretty horrible. Now here with the width again, I'm going to have it auto, preserving aspect ratio, height 100%. And yeah, so maybe do another user select to be none, just in case if something happens. Okay, so the Nike text in here goes right into there, pretty smooth. Now we're gonna need the shoes wrapper, and inside of it we're gonna have the shoes, right? And inside of it we're gonna have the image. Now the image is we need to grab the image from our image folder right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and import that right quick. So I'm gonna do Air Jordan from going back again, the parallax assets, images, then Air Jordan PNG. I'm not going to use the SVG because it's literally the same as like the PNG one. Okay, I'm going to use Air Jordan image, and hallelujah. And yeah, it does look good, even though we didn't do any rotation to it yet. It looks pretty good. Look, like the shoes in here is just like is aligning on top of the text. This is creating a pretty awesome kind of effect into it already. So it's making it look absolutely awesome at some point. But yeah, we wanted to rotate it a little bit into like 25 degrees or something, just to make it a bit like a study or something. So we can have it right on top, but what I want to do, I want to have it bottom in here, and I have like rotates, and I want to have it minus 25 degrees, I believe. If that's gonna work, probably not, but yeah. So just to make that work, because later on we are gonna convert this styled.dev into motion.dev to be able to use frame of motion into it. So let's go ahead and do it right now. And make sure to import motion, and this one is gonna allow us to import motion from frame of motion, and this one is gonna have all the elements, all the HTML elements you ever know, all of them gonna have in, like, be able to find right here, and you can like manipulate and animate real quickly with the motion API. So here I'm gonna be doing just like a motion.dev. That should make the job. And this is not the one. You're not gonna need the wrapper indeed, but we're gonna need the shoes. So motion.dev. And there you go. So we got the rotation going on a little bit, but it's kind of like goes on the top, while we don't want it to go like a little bit into the top right there. So we can just go ahead and add some margin into it to have it like goes a little bit into the center, because I think the image is not really fitting right. So I can do margin right and margin top to be both 2em, and that should make it a little bit better. Here, not really sure how we should look like, but not really sure. So we can have this one. I think it's good this way. Maybe we need like a bit more into it, a bit more here. Yeah, it definitely looks better now. Okay, so you can tweak that out, and you can find the sweet spot for your design, and you can have it going on. So now we got the shoes pretty good, and it's going actually above the text, which makes it look super awesome. And the color in here on the shoes matches the color on the circle, which is the yellow. So everything goes pretty smooth. So we got all the colors on the shoes, the same on the card, like the black, the yellow, and the whites. All of them are here, so it makes a pretty good design, and we have it all going around there. So pretty cool. Now we got the first section done and complete, and it just like looks pretty amazing. Now let's go ahead and work our way out into the bottom section and add some shoe details like the name, price, and yada yada yada. So this should be quite simple stuff to be adding. So I'm gonna go and just add in here. Maybe I'm gonna just like name it shoes details.jsx. I'm gonna go quickly and add the components into it. So I'm gonna export shoes details real quick from that, so we can have it like having the props and everything. So we got everything should be like running here, and we can go like add details container, which is gonna work as the main container for our like bottom section. So styled, make sure to import that. We've got styled and everything. I'm gonna have like width to be 100%, height to be 100%. Okay, that should do it. Also need to make sure to use flex direction, or display flex and flex direction to be column. because you have a complete column in here in details containers, one underneath the other, so that should make it pretty good. Now for padding, let's go to the bottom here is going a little bit into the top. I wanted to go a bit into the bottom just to have the design look a bit better. So we can add a little bit like a padding into it, like 2.5 EM. We can add the 6 pixels to the right, 0 pixels to the bottom, and 6 pixels to the left. So that way it should look a bit better. So last but not least, we can do line heights like 1.4, and that should make it perfect already. So this is the details container, nothing special about it. Now let's go ahead and start adding other kind of like components to style that out, like medium text or the title and the price text and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna have the medium text in here. So the medium text in here is gonna have like a span into it. This just gonna, you can put the name into it and other medium, small, like size text. So the font size, this one is gonna have like 18 pixels. Colors always is gonna be white. The font weight, we can have the highest one or something like 800, even though our font doesn't support it. So always just choose something big, it will fall back into the nearest one, which is 700 before it. And so last but not least, text transform should be uppercase. Pretty cool. So this is the medium text. You need the small text, so just copy paste in. So the small text here should maybe look something like 11 pixels, because we want something pretty small. And you can have this like either 600 or 700. It's just gonna be small. You're not gonna be noticing the same font weight there, so it should make it look a bit better there. We're also gonna need the price, so I'm just gonna copy paste all of those because they are literally the same. So the price in here, I'm just gonna change the font size. Well, I'm just gonna use the same font size for the price. It's gonna be the same as the medium size, I believe. So why even bothering adding a price there? Just doesn't make sense. And I want another container. So literally I'm just gonna use another container that allows us to like horizontally and just do a space between, flex space between container. So we can just wrap it up and we can have all these components goes sideways and we can have a space between them real quickly with this cool components I want to create. So I'm gonna name it paste horizontal container. Okay, so space horizontal container is going to use flex direction. So I'm going to do flex, and so I'm just going to do, okay, so I think I'm going to use justify content, so space between, and we're going to use a line item to vertically align them, and we want them to have a width of 100%, otherwise it won't work, the spacing. So that way it should look definitely better. Pretty cool stuff. Now, yeah, let's go ahead and render stuff here. Just gonna render details container, then we got small text. Small text, I'm just gonna render Nike, maybe Nike Air, I don't know. We will see how it goes. I'm gonna have a space horizontal container. For these, I'm gonna have two medium text. One is gonna contain the name of the shoes. This shoes likely is just like has a pretty weird name as many other Nike shoes. So I'm just gonna use this one real quick in there. So just look for that name real quickly. That should be it. It's a Nike Air Jordan 1 made SCGC for all this like color palettes and stuff like that. So that should do it. And for the price, I want to have something cool. I don't want to use like another currency, which is the Japan yen. If you're familiar with this, just like a Japanese currency. So let me just copy that real quick as well. You can have it right here, and that should make well, and we'll see how it goes in a second. So let's go and render out this into the bottom container. So I can do choose details, can have it, and there you go. Pretty awesome, and it looks awesome already. You got Nike Air, and you got like Air Jordan 1 Mid, SC, GC, and here instead of Nike Air, you can just have a Nike. Oh, not that one. It's this one. There you go. It should look better. We've got like space between them and the padding and everything, and the card looks amazing already. I'm just like, you know, I'm kind of like in love with this kind of card design. I found it in like a dribble set before. I will give you the link in a second after finishing this video. So this is the first one. I'm gonna have the second one. I think I can just do this one, and we can jump like I don't know, into this one. So here we can have like a buy button, so you can press it and you can buy these shoes or whatever. And you can here like have a text, an inspiration text, like your next shoes or something, whatever. You can have whatever you want there. And we want to introduce some marginer to it. So I'm just gonna use our special marginer components. Not really sure is that. So this one is actually inside of marginer. Cool. I should have moved this. And I should like save everything to get stuff into it. So let's save that again. Got pretty horrible issues going on. Okay, I'm just gonna delete one of these. And marginer is not defined. Yeah, sure. Where is that? So I can go ahead and import it manually without using VS Code superpowers. So marginer from marginer. Awesome. So we got the marginer there. Let's go and add like a direction. We want a vertical direction. I want to add the margin of like 1.2 EM or something. And that should make it look good already. Pretty sweet. Now last but not least, we're going to have the Nike logo, which is or before that, I'm totally forgetting about the button, the buy button pretty much. So we can have the buy button here, like we can have it, you know, the same color, yellow color, whenever we hover over it, some cool transition or whatever. It's not really that much of importance. So we can have a buy button, it's going to be styled button there. So I'm going to have some padding into it, so 10 pixels by 16 pixels. Background color. Okay, luckily I'm going to use the same yellowish kind of color that I used before. Color, obviously I'm going to use 000 for black. Still black is going to show up on top of this color without any issues. Text transform uppercase again, and font size we can do something like 16 pixels. The font weight, I think 700 should make it happen at some point. No border, none. So I don't think we need to do border none. We need to do like border 2 pixels, solid and transparent, because we're gonna just like animate the border and remove the background. So this way we can have it as a placeholder. So whenever we hover over it and we introduce a new border, it's not gonna cause any CSS issues where you see a flickering of the button or something. This is always a good trick whenever you work with border animation and border transitions in your CSS elements. Okay, so I'm gonna have an outline too with none to remove the outline. Cursor is gonna be pointer as always. And the transition, I'm gonna have it all to 90 milliseconds is in and out. Okay. That should make it happen. And last but not least, we got the border to be, well, I think we already introduced border, okay? So we can have 3 pixels on top of there. Cool. Now we can have hover. So whenever we are hovering over it, we can have a background color to be transparent. And the border is going to be 3 pixels solid, and we're going to have it the same as the background color. And last but not least, don't forget about just changing the text to FFF, otherwise it won't work for you. So here, we can just next to this one, we can have the buy button, and we can have buy, and I'm forgetting about the border radius, which I think 9 pixels should do the job. Not really sure what we could use for this one, but that one seems pretty good. And there you go. It looks cool and amazing already. So we got your next shoes, and you can buy in there, and it looks amazing already. Pretty cool. So last but not least, we can have the Nike logo like down there. Just you know, this is a Nike card, so we want to have like a signature. Oh, this is actually a Nike card. Okay, so styled and dev, and always a good UI to include this kind of like type of signatures, right? So width is going to be 100%, and I'm going to have a height of 30. I have a display flex, align items to be center, and justify content to be center too, because you want the full logo to be on the center of the card, either horizontally or vertically. Now I'm going to have the image here. You can have a width of auto to preserve aspect ratio again, and height is going to be 100% to fetch that height. Or you can simply have it like 15 pixels, I think, because 100% or 30 pixels is quite huge. We don't want that. So we can have it there. So we can do a Nike logo. So image. And let's go and import that. So from going back, assets, images, and Nike logo. Cool. So Nike. Okay, it's not Nike logo, it's Nike image. And there you go. We got the image, we got the logo, the signature there, and it looks amazing already. So just like in love with this kind of card. And it's the moment of truth. Let's go ahead and add this kind of like 3D animation into it and make it look absolutely amazing. So let's go back into the Nike card, and this one we need to convert it to a motion, like motion.dev. So in order to be able to use the motion animation API, so I'm just going to do motion dev, and whenever we need that, we need to convert it into a motion.dev. Otherwise, it won't work for us. So here for the card container, we're going to do some animation. Whenever we drag the card, like we drag the mouse like to the left or to the right, it's going to create this kind of like circled, rounded animation of this card, so it looks parallax, and we want also these shoes to move along the card as well to make it look parallax, and just like pop up the Z index, which is the 3D index. That's what basically the Z index is. So that's exactly what I wanted here. Now for the CSS, it has like this kind of like weird perspective property, and for putting this and being able to use it and create this kind of 3D effects, we have to go ahead and add a parent to the card container, because here we want animate, and we want to add the 3D animation, a 3D Z index animation into the card container itself. So the parent of this card container should have a perspective property that allows us to tell how the card is actually going to be tilted and how it's going to be rotated on the 3Z index, or like 3 axis or 3D axis, sorry. So for that, I'm going to create another component. I'm going to go here, I'm going to create, pretty simple, just a card wrapper, and this one, it's going to be a dev, alright? It's not going to have anything special. All it does is going to be like 100% of width, and it's going to have the most important property, which is perspective, and we can have it something like 2000 or something. So this one is going to determine how the card is going to be tilted and how it's going to be like rotated in the 3D world, and this is where the perspective is. So that's what we want in here, and we can just have it goes on top of it. So it's going to be card proper, and it should go right into there. We're not going to be seeing not a huge stuff, but there is one thing we are pretty much seeing right there. So we can do display flex align items center, justify content center. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense right now, and it makes it look good. All right, so let's go ahead and add the animation into it. And for this guy, we're gonna use the like the hooks functions that frame of motion gonna provide with us to manipulate the dragging in here. So whenever here, instead of doing like on mouse and whenever like we do on mouse drag and yada yada yada, frame of motion makes our lives easier, as I said before, and it provides all of this for us. And with just like super simple and easy hooks functions, we can just have like the X value, the Y value, then we can start manipulating how the card can tilt it. So here we can have X, we can use motion value, and this one is kind of like an advanced. This one is going to provide an X value that is readable by the frame of motion elements there. So that's why we're going to provide it right here. That's all the reason. So motion value, this is the Y, and since here we want to have like this 3D kind of animation, we want to rotate it in a 3D world, right? So we want to rotate the X and the Y, and we want to add like a Z perspective into it as well. So I have like rotate X, and for this one I'm going to use transform. So this use transform is provided as well with frame of motion, and it's going to allow you to interpolate some values to another value. So if you've like watched my previous video tutorials about animating, this is just a basic interpolation. So for example, you say, if I receive inputs between -100 pixels and 100 pixels, just translate this particular one, this particular input into this output into like -30 and 30. And behind the scenes is going to do the math for you. So whenever like, for example, it has 100%, you're going to have it as an output as a 30, sorry. So that's what's going to happen there. And this is just like for normalization, because you don't want to rotate like 100 degrees, because rotation versus like translation or like, you know, normal X and Y values is not the same, because rotating is just like 180 degrees. Then there's up to 360, which the full rotation. So it doesn't work like that. So we want to rotate X into the Y. And for those of you who are saying, why using Y in here? No, I'm not wrong. Just basically in here for rotating, because the axes are inversed and the rotation axes are inversed compared to the regular axis we know. So we have to inverse it in here and have to like to be able to see it normally and be able to let the user interact with it regularly. Okay, it's just like a normal mouse interaction. All right, so here I want, I said before, from -100 to 100. So whenever it is actually going to be, the Y value is going to reach -100. This one is going to translate it to us into something like 30 and -30. That's basically where it is. And this one is for the X one. And it's just a basic math, and that's how our CSS works. Now we need to use the X for the Y. We have to do -100 as well. And whenever we reach another -100, we want to just flip that one. We're going to have -30 into 30. This way it will work, because as I said before, the axis and the rotation axis are inversed. So we have to inverse them this way in order to work. So whenever we reach like 100% or 100 pixels, we're going to receive as an output to 30. So this value is going to have 30 whenever the Y value is going to be 100. And it's going to interpolate all the values from -100 to 100 to this particular array. So that's basically what use transform or interpolation is. Okay, so this one's going to allow us to do a pretty awesome stuff into our component. So let's go ahead and call this one into the card container. So we got the card container. We have to use the style in here, which is provided by the frame of motion, because here we're using a frame of motion elements. So we have to pass in the X, the Y, the rotate X, and the rotate Y. Okay, pretty cool stuff. And last but not least, we need the Z one. So the Z here is going to determine like the perspective of how much the card is going to pop out of the ground, out of like the, you know, the background. This is the main reason, just like for creating a 3D animation. So this kind of like a Z pop up, so it comes closer to you. And we want it just to have 100 in here, because it's just like the simple card to create the parallax effects. Pretty cool. So this one is just going to have like this values interpolated for us. Now we want to tell it like whenever we drag the card, like whenever we drag it, we want to have this kind of like animation. And we're not going to use on mouse events or anything like that, because likely we've got frame of motion, and frame of motion has everything ready made for us from scratch, and you can just use this awesome API. So if you provide the drag in here, scripts in here, the documentation states enable dragging for this element, set false by default, but set to true, drag in both directions. So here, whenever you set to true, it's going to allow you to drag this element depending on these X and Y values that you have just provided. So these ones are just for interpolating the rotate X and Y, so we can have a proper rotating X and Y, then we can provide them right there. So we just say drag in here, and it's going to be allow you to drag it out of the box. So if we test this one, still doesn't work because we don't have so the drag, elastic. So the drag elastic in here, it's a variable that allows you or tells you how much you can drag. So it's a really small variable. So I'm gonna use for 0.16. Okay, I'm using this as an object. And there's, last but not least, there's the drag constraint, and this is actually a constraint like from top, left, bottom, and right that doesn't allow the dragging to go out of space. So we want top to be 0, all of them to be 0 actually. So right to be 0 and bottom to be 0. And this way we can have this constraint that, you know, the dragging doesn't flip over, or the card doesn't flip over in the origin and stuff like that. So this way we can have it like a really clean and really smooth and how it could work. Another one here is actually have like while tapping, we want to apply some styles and we want to like change the cursor into grabbing. Okay, just to make that work. So if we refresh, for some reason it's not doing the full potential of like how the card container should handle this. So here we didn't provide the initial value, and make sure always the initial value starts from 0. So it starts always from like the origin of like the X and Y axis to have a proper animation. So just add that, save it, and you can have a really awesome drag animation out of the box. So you see I'm dragging in here with the mouse, going down again, just gonna tilt it down, going up, gonna tilt it up, left and right, and it looks pretty smooth and all of that perspective. So you see here, whenever we drag it, it's gonna rotate the X and Y, as well as it's gonna do this kind of like Z kind of like popping. We've got Z set to 100, so it's gonna pop it off the ground, so it seems it's a 3D thing. Well, it's just 2D, it's not really 3D, but just this parallax effects created by the CSS and all the magic behind that, it's gonna make it look 3D and make it look absolutely amazing. So pretty simple. Screws in here using frame of motion made our lives easier, and we've been able to add the dragging without doing any kind of mouse event handling, any creepy stuff, just pretty simple stuff, and all into the components perhaps, just to create right that into there. Now we got the card container. The second one we want to animate while animating or while dragging the card is we want to animate also the shoes. So we want to animate this one, so whenever we drag the card, whenever the shoes as well to move, and we want it to pop it off the card with a Z of like 1,000 or something. So the bigger it is, the better it is. It's not really the better, but it depends on how perspective you want and the types of like you want to compare with. But that way it should work perfectly. So for that particular example right here, let's go ahead and make the shoes a motion div, which we already did, by the way. So that is pretty good actually. So all we need to do right here, just go ahead and add the X, Y, rotate X and rotate Y. That should make it good or ready for us to have it. And I want the Z, so we can have it like 10,000. Probably this is, pretty sure this one is going to be huge, but still. So we can go ahead and add the dragging into it. And we can do drag elastic into something 0.16 or 0.12, just you know, to have a different dragging behavior than the card. And so we can do while tapping, just do a cursor. Okay, of grabbing. Okay. So whenever we do it, as clear to see, it looks amazing already. And he pops off the ground for us, and he makes this really amazing kind of look. So you see, whenever we took it up, like we can see underneath the shoes, and which is pretty amazing though. Look at it. So we can have it down, and this creates this parallax. And whenever just like you leave the mouse, it goes back into the place, and the shoe just comes into like 2D space again, and like nothing happened. You drag it, it becomes 3D. You leave it, it becomes 2D, and it comes back into the right place he was in before. And that is actually just amazing to look at and to work with. And you can have much more. So here you see, whenever we drag on top, we can read the Nike Air tags beneath it, which is, you know, it's a parallax kind of effects with the card and how the shoes work. You can have it down there. But what you can crazy do as well, you can even have the Nike Air text here beneath. You can have it as well, have like this 3D rotation, a little bit slightly different than the shoes, just to make it a little bit like, you know, parallax kind of effects, and you can have a different Z value for it, and you can have an awesome animation going on through right there. So yeah, without just like super complicated stuff, a couple of lines of code, frame of motion, and we got an awesome 3D animation right on top of React with an awesome Nike shoes card. So yeah, that was it actually, guys, for this particular video tutorial. Hope you guys enjoyed it, as I just like enjoyed creating this card. I'm just like in love with it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys actually liked the design. I'm probably gonna provide the dribble when I found this one. I'm slightly like made this difference because I don't want to just like go and add a lot of elements that doesn't make sense, because our video is just to design something that has a 3D animation and 3D effects in React in a small effort without complicated parts with frame of motion, obviously. So as I said before, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you like this type of video tutorials where I just go in and explore the wilds, create something creative, cards like this, stuff like that, that would be awesome, because I love doing this kind of things, UI, UX, stuff like that, React, animating and stuff like that on the UI. So let me guys know. I would love to have all of that for you guys, and I would love to create much more creative and better videos and better designs for you guys. So without further ado, hope you guys enjoyed this episode before, and catch you all hopefully in the next ones.